I would just like to.
We're ready. No, Chris is out.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City of Monona Plan Commission, Monday, July 10th. Please call the roll.
Chair Moore,
Here.
Alder DePula. Here. Mr. Stein.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Grice.
Here.
Ms. Fallett.
Here.
Mr. Holmberg is excused.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 26, 2023?
Motion approved.
Do I have a second? Second. Do I have a second? Any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. There's no need to change the order of business tonight, given that it's a short meeting. How nice for you. Yeah, yeah. I don't see that there's anybody here to make any kind of appearances, so we'll close the appearance section. There's no unfinished business, so we'll go to new business. Number 7A, public hearing on the request by Pelletary Waste Systems for approval of a zoning permit for new use and site improvements at 2801 Industrial Drive, case number 2-011-2023. This is your opportunity to speak on behalf of this. Welcome.
Pelletary Waste Systems. Our family owns and runs a local waste and recycling operation, and our trucking side of the company has purchased the 2801 Industrial Drive location, which is essentially across Industrial Drive from our current headquarters. For the purpose of increasing truck parking capacity, and we also are looking to utilize that building in time as a maintenance facility. So, and I say truck parking, it's equipment parking. We deliver dumpsters to people, and they have to have, newly painted dumpsters and stuff. So we have a site. This would be one of those staging sites where containers would get delivered from manufacturers, and we would hold them until they're ready to go to the customer, and then send them out. Stuff like that. But we bought this facility from the bus company that was in there prior, and when we looked at the zoning stuff, we're really interested in just keeping what has already been approved there pretty much from a parking standpoint. But our trucks, we have had issues with break-ins at our other facilities because people try to get at copper and metals, and they look at a garbage truck and they go in there and try to take stuff. So we've been fencing in all of our locations where we park our heavy duty equipment. So we are requesting to have a fence put up, and you can see that on the plans there. I think we originally asked or talked about an 8-foot fence or a 6-foot fence, and I think that was either one is fine with us, I guess, but 6 foot seems to be the code, so it's easier just to go at that weight. But the 8 foot does do a better job of keeping people out, and I do believe that some of the neighbors around us have 8 foot in the back of our facility. But either one is fine with us, but we're just trying to make it so it's not easy to get into. So, and then once we're there, we'll be parking garbage trucks and equipment and trailers and stuff that we use for everyday occurrence. And then in time we would be coming back to the council with plans to really beef up that facility and make it into a full-blown maintenance shop, and deal with some of the water runoff stuff that we think is good, has to be dealt with before we can do that. So right now this is really just a request to get the permit to operate in there and store some vehicles inside and do some light maintenance inside and park them. So until we can wrap our head around everything that building will do for us.
Great. Thank you. With that, we'll close.
We have one person. Sorry, we have one person online. Jeremy Watkins.
Yeah, he's just listening in.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Great, appreciate it. Let's close number 7A and go to 7B, consideration of action on the request by Pelletary Waste Systems for approval of the zoning permit for new use and site improvements at 2801 Industrial Drive, case number 2-0112023. Doug?
Thank you. So Pelletary Waste Systems proposing minor site improvements and a new use at 2801 Industrial Drive. The parcel in question is zoned, it's within the commercial industrial zoning district, and a zoning permit is needed for both the new use and the site modifications that are proposed. The 2016 comp plan identifies the parcel as industrial in both current and future land use maps, and the land uses there include light manufacturing, assembly, warehouse, and other storage uses. For site design and circulation, the applicant proposes to make use of the 2 existing curb cuts along Industrial Drive, and it is recommended that some small directional signage be used, in addition to some of the restriping to just help with vehicular flow, especially managing the trucks in particular going to the back of the site. In terms of the parking, the materials state 20 to 30 employees will work at the facility at full occupancy, and it will also function as overflow parking for the other locations in the vicinity. And additional to that would be the storage of the trucks in the back of the site, and that would be separate from the visitor or staff parking area. The applicant's confident of the parking capacity on the site, and certainly with the previous application, the Go Right Way application, there was ample parking available on the site. It is recommended that parking lot restriping be completed at the front of the building as well. The materials did mention that the back of the building, certainly for the truck parking, would be restriped, but it's recommended that the staff parking be clearly designated, as well as ADA accessible stalls be shown appropriately as well. At this time, there are no changes planned to the exterior of the building, and the main site improvement would be the fencing, as mentioned. So as proposed, it's a 6-foot tall chain link fence at the back of the property, and that also includes some mesh screening as well, which mimics the fences specifically at the Farrell site, which is adjacent. As mentioned tonight, the applicant had considered an 8-foot tall fence, and it may be something that the commission chooses to consider an exception this evening. The ordinance does allow for that, and certainly in this instance, if there's a security concern or something like that, then that may be something worth considering. Hours of operation, would be for both the maintenance as well as for the trucks themselves. The materials state the maintenance would be throughout the working day and into the evening, whereas the truck routes do begin around 2 a.m. and extend to around 9 p.m. At night. Just for reference, the previous Go Right Way tenant operated from about 5:30 in the morning to about 8 p.m., so a little bit of an extension of those hours. And it may be something to consider just in terms of limiting noise impacts during some of those earlier hours in particular. No changes to the lighting are proposed as part of this plan, and it may be something to discuss, at least given the extended hours of operation. And additionally, sort of building on what was discussed with the last application, the impervious area on the site and some of the sort of stabilization there, it is recommended that some of the seeding and some of the grass, be extended there just to green up the site a little bit in more of an interim condition, but also just help with some of that runoff as well. All that being said, staff recommendation is approval with the conditions as listed in the staff report. Thanks.
Thank you. I will turn to the commission. Brenda, do you want to start?
It would be chain link whether it's 6 foot or 8 foot, correct? Correct. For me, that doesn't seem like a big visual obstruction and seems pretty reasonable. I wouldn't object to an 8-foot fence.
Okay. Patrick?
I don't have a problem with an 8-foot fence on that side either.
Okay. Can I ask for clarification? Is there, in fact, since he mentioned that there are others around him where we've made exceptions, or can you cite specifically?
I don't. I'm not aware of the Farrell site in particular,
Okay.
in terms of what materials that they have in terms of the height. But I do know there have been some. I think in that area, sort of the industrial park itself, a couple have extended to 8. I'm almost certain of that. So,
Okay.
not sure exactly on adjacent
ones
sites,
would
but
be
yeah.
Okay, great. Rob?
Yeah, regarding the fence, I don't have an issue with 8-foot fence. I don't think either, especially in this location. I think it's in line with an industrial site, and if it improves your security, I think that's warranted. Couple of things. I agree with staff's recommendations about restriping and kind of general cleanup, which was in the staff report as well, I think would go a long way. I know there's bigger plans in the future, and I don't know if that's more just with the building or site improvements as well. But then things like lighting and striping on a more permanent basis, maybe that's when that happens. Maybe you can clarify that.
Yeah, that is the plan. I mean, we bought it when it came up for sale, you know, just to get it before somebody else got it, so to say. So we're just gonna get our hands around everything and you know, hire the right people to really put together. I mean, this is gonna be one of our homes for 25, 30 years. We're gonna make sure it's safe and you know, doing workable, you know,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's great. I'm glad
Yeah.
you got it, and you're
Yeah.
staying in Monona, and that's wonderful. As far as the recommendations for some of the seeding and planting, I apologize, I didn't get out there today, but you know, it looks like a kind of a gravel pad in front there. Is that?
That is pretty grassy right now.
Is it grassy now?
We just mowed it. It was, when we bought it, it was probably 3 feet tall.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, we've hired a maintenance, you know, lawn maintenance company to come in and do that, and we have a buildings and grounds team that we've recently hired on the last few years just to start to work on stuff like this and get the parking lot in a little better shape, maybe
Yeah.
kind of pretty it up a little bit, but
Until those
it's-
major improvements are made, I don't think a little bit would go a long ways. I
Yeah.
think for site cleanup.
that is our intention.
The fencing, there's like a treatment or some sort of something. Is not just chain link. Does it have more
There's
screw?
fabric as well.
I didn't quite. Do you mean?
It's like the plastic and I
Yeah.
had my guys put it together. I didn't physically
Oh,
look at it
okay.
myself.
That's
I'm sorry.
It's just like
Just
the
the-
vinyl slats.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a fan of those. They seem to break down and crack, and then I think they look worse than just like a black vinyl fence. But I don't know if that's something that you want for security reasons, or is that something you're adding to try to?
That was what was recommended to me by the fence company. I mean, if there's, you know, if you would like a see-through fence at that front gate or whatever, I think there's nothing to stop that from happening. But
You're just talking about material degradation.
yeah,
You're not asking,
Yeah,
you're not worried about like the aesthetic on day one. It's the, after year 5, it
This
looks
is
worse than if you.
yeah. I think the UV lights break those down, and they get
Mhm.
bumped by a bumper, and then they crack, and then they fall, and then there's gaps. And I'm just not a fan of them personally. I've always thought that like just a black vinyl coated fence is about the most attractive, cost-effective way. But
As in vinyl coated.
yeah, I know you get more screening, and if that's the
Yeah.
major reason, then I get that. But if it's that's not a necessity, I like black vinyl coated if that's consideration.
Well, were you just going to do those slats on the gate, or was it the whole way around? That's what I was, because if it's the whole way around, that would probably be pretty expensive to do the
Yeah.
vinyl as opposed to the chain link.
Yeah.
Make a phone call.
Can you phone a friend? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that could probably be handled by staff
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it could be handled.
I can also just jump in as well that I believe one of the previous specs I had seen did include, I think there was some sort of more of a fabric interwoven as well, you know, sort of on the main panels
Okay.
to offer some screening. I don't see that included in the specs here, so it could be much closer to the product that you're discussing, just a traditional black chain link. I'm not seeing anything in these materials that says anything else.
Well, I don't know. You might want to comment too on what you think. And
Hey, Shane. Hey, I'm sitting here in the
It's the
middle of
first.
the meeting. The fence, is there any screens on it? Is it like the vinyl slatting in it, or is it just a fence? Yeah, okay. Is there any, it's just a fence, it's a metal. Is it a metal fence, or is there any rubber? Nothing? Metal chain link.
okay.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Yes.
Okay.
Just aluminum or steel.
I mean, I prefer that over the slats, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear what others think.
Yeah,
Susan?
well, I was having a hard, I still can't totally picture the slats, but the chain link sounds fine to me. I also don't have a problem with the 8 feet in that area, and particularly, there's so many trees surrounding it, and in the back, there's that hillside, it goes up, and you're not really interfering with anybody.
You just slide in,
Oh,
and they go vertically.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're like
Okay.
green
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, no, and I think it makes sense to do the 8 feet if that's, because the security thing seems to be a legitimate reason to do that. I guess along with that, I did drive back there, and I only saw one light pole, and I was thinking more lighting might be good. I know it was mentioned in the staff report, too, just consideration of that, just, especially if you have people there at 2 in the morning, you might want more lighting anyway, but more lighting just might deter some people from coming in, and might be a good thing about having people in and out at night, too, just to
Absolutely.
sort of help with that. Yeah, and I agree with the staff report that mainly I'm glad to hear you've hired a landscape person. Clearly the site needs some attention, but it's mostly a maintenance issue. We're not talking plantings and enhancing, it's really just the grass. And the parking lot's in pretty rough shape in terms of maybe being resurfaced too
Oh,
at some
yeah,
point.
there's
but-
got to be some work
And
going
then
on
there's
there.
some striping, yeah, it's pretty, a lot of cracks, a lot of grass growing in the parking lot there, so. Otherwise, I think it looks fine, and I'm also pleased that you purchased it and are keeping your business here, so. it's good.
I agree with what the other commissioners have said. Just a question, you're not proposing anything on the inside, but it's a maintenance, you're going to do maintenance in there, so you don't have to do anything inside to,
At the moment, we don't have to do very much, just to do some light maintenance in there.
Okay.
Eventually, we will be putting in some pretty significant garage doors,
Okay.
easy up, easy down, kind of redoing the flow of how that building works. And,
okay.
yeah, and the parking lot needs to be completely redone.
Yeah, are there already industrial type fans for exhaust for that kind of work on the side? I don't know, it looked like there might be something.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there
Yeah.
already
Yeah,
from
that's
a
right.
prior owner.
I mean, you say you're going to fix it up, and so I think what the staff recommendations say is good for now, assuming that you will come back. If I wasn't sure or feeling confident that you were going to come back with some other plans, we might want to make these a little bit more specific, but I think the lighting, if you are going to have people starting to use that before you get a chance, that might be something to look at. So I do agree with that one. And I'm not worried about the noise, because if it's going to be inside with the door shut at 2 a.m., I don't know that that would disturb anyone in that area anyway. So, yeah, I think it looks fine. I'm fine with just a chain link fence as well.
If we didn't go with an 8-foot fence, I was going to suggest something like chain link. Barbed wire or something along the top, only because I know of several other 6-foot fences with just single dumpsters behind them that people are easily jumping over to want to dumpster dive and pick through. Like, as an example, I know Restores had an issue with that, because people assume there's things of value there. And like you said, if it's metal, scrap metal, people looking for scrap metal or whatever. But if, people are comfortable with 8 feet, I'm certainly am. And, like Corey, I'm going to assume that even though it's an industrial area, you guys want it to look nice and represent the company that way. So, we'll obviously take your word that you're going to want to fix it up later when you get around to making it into true maintenance facility. So, with that, do I have a motion?
But the only question I had, would we add a finding of fact that we're making an exception for an 8-foot fence, or can it just go down as a condition, or how's the best way to?
I would say a finding would be appropriate, yeah.
Well, then, I would move approval, adding a finding of fact that we're granting an exception to allow an 8-foot fence in light of security concerns, and then otherwise recommendations with conditions of approval as written by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming. Glad you were able to find a meeting where we weren't here all night.
Thanks for expanding on the Riverside.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad it worked out for you.
Yep. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. We will move to number 8, reports of staff and commission members, staff report regarding status.
Thank you. A couple updates just to share quickly with the group. The question about the Monona Garden, the BESA project, had come up at the last meeting. Just quickly thereafter, I did hear back from the applicants that it's moving along well. Financing is going well, and they're hoping to pull permits pretty quickly here. So good news on that project. And you may well have seen the pediatric dental, the former Rutabaga. Demolition is underway. The building's down. And they have their early start permits to be able to do footings, foundations, and to be moving there. So they're on a pretty aggressive timeline, and expect to see something coming up pretty quickly there as well.
Great.
Upcoming Plan Commission items, expecting I was in contact with the Compass folks about the Bloom project. August 14th is what they're targeting for kind of the next PIP discussion, more of the pre-hearing, kind of following on from the conditions that were laid out at the last meeting. So coordinating with them, I think the second meeting in July was a little quick, but they're looking at this August 14th for that as well.
Any updates on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Did you want to share the meeting today?
Yeah. We meaning Alder DePula and myself and Teresa Rademacher, Jason Chung, Thor, and Doug, and John Anderson. All met today to the Teresa, John, and Jason are all part of the DEIB implementation group committee. That was ad hoc committee that was formed by the city, and they've identified 3 priorities out of the DEIB report that was done last year. And out of that, the number 1 priority is around affordable housing. And so we had a preliminary meeting today to simply talk about the specific recommendations, since that was a big part of the report, actually, and a more detailed part of the report in terms of what they were looking at. We had just a preliminary meeting today to talk about how the implementation committee might be helpful, and what to committees, and to the committees generally, including especially CDA and the Plan Commission, in moving that ball forward, and also just to get an update from us as to what has happened since then. So since the report was created, and Doug consequently shared with them the housing-related report that was completed by Thor and Doug for this group, which will also be presented to the City Council within the next 4 to 6 weeks. They're going to put together a formal presentation to the City Council around housing. So I think it was a good preliminary meeting, to talk about some steps that are we continue to have under consideration. And as you know, Alder DePula has been part of the Dane County initiative, and they're going to be wrapping up, you said, in August?
We've got like 2 more meetings.
2 more meetings.
So by September, I think.
Before there'll be some, and so there's no magic bullets, but everybody's singing the same tune. How's that for mixing metaphors? Which is to say, people are pretty clear on some steps that can be taken to facilitate, our initiatives as a community. as it relates to affordable housing, so. Yep. Updates, discussion on sustainability,
Nothing from staff.
nothing here too. I mean, I think frankly, sustainability is also part of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. They go hand in hand. But I can't think of anything specifically along those lines. July 24th, what can we look forward to?
It's possibly a council meeting. Just need to check in with Thor in terms of if there's any applications he's seen come his way. But at this point, I'm inclined to cancel, so I'll be in touch in the next couple of days with that information.
Okay. Is there any possibility that one's in? That he was talking about that date.
I think they're pushing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any requests for information from city staff? How are the kids? No, really. No. Any, and none? Hearing none. I will be glad to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Do I have a second? Did I get a second?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
it was so fast.
It was so fast I miss it, yeah. That in my hearing, that'll do it. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.